Hello, my name is Matthew Fox, and I'm happy to be celebrating the work of Jill Angelo with her Moondog Farm and her love of animals. And I am by trade a spiritual theologian and a priest, and I certainly endorse everyone's efforts to love our pets and other animals and recognize that we are being loved by them. Over my shoulder is my spiritual director of about 15 years back, named Tristan, and MC Richards, a good friend of mine, painter and potter and poet, philosopher, and fellow faculty member in my school. She painted a picture of Tristan years ago, and I think it's a wonderful picture. She captures his piercing black eyes. And I called him in my writings back then my spiritual director, and I was not being facetious. That I believe if we pay deep enough attention to the animals in our lives, that they are passing on some very profound spiritual lessons. Now, I gathered these lessons in my book on spirituality named Compassion, which was published in 1979. I was just thinking about how long ago that was, 44 years ago. I was writing about animals as spiritual directors. That was a section of that book. And I think some of you may have received a summary. I'll just run through the summary, 10 points. Spiritual lessons animals teach us. 1, that it is good to be an animal. 2, ecstasy without guilt. 3, play is an adult thing to do. It needs no justification. 4, the power and frequent adequacy of nonverbal communication. 5, openness and sensitivity. 6, beauty. 7, sensuousness. 8, that climbing Jacob's ladder is unnatural. Animals do not climb ladders as a rule. They like to stay close to the earth. 9, humor. I think a lot of animals play with us, like to make jokes with us. And 10, silent dignity. So, as I wrote, these were inspired by Tristan and appear in A Spirituality Named Compassion. Now, Thomas Merton, the Catholic monk, used to say that every non-two-legged creature is a saint. Every non-two-legged creature is a saint. That means that animals, not just pets, but wild animals, are holy, are sacred, and have a lot to teach us from the world of the spiritual. Meister Eckhart, the great 14th century Dominican mystic, offers a very profound teaching about animals and indeed about dogs. He says this, and this is in my book, Passion for Creation, the Earth Honoring Spirituality of Meister Eckhart, which collects 37 of his sermons and offers a commentary on each. This is on page 99. Says Eckhart, if I was alone in a desert and feeling afraid, I would like to have a child with me, for then my fear would disappear, and I would be strengthened. So noble, so full of pleasure, and so powerful is life itself. If I could not have a child with me, and if I had at least a live animal with me, I would be comforted. Therefore, that those who bring about great wonders in big black books take an animal, perhaps a dog, to help them. The life within the animal will give them strength. Or equality gives strength in all things. Equality gives strength in all things. Eckhart is saying that the power of life in itself is found in animals, and that there is this equality between us and animals. They are mammals. They live and they die. They celebrate and they suffer. And they are companions, therefore. There is a common equality there between us and animals. Now, Tristan and I used to walk frequently. And one of my students at that time, 42-year-old young man, who was sick with AIDS, he and I, and the three of us would walk together in the woods above Holy Names College in Oakland. And Michael was his name, and Michael eventually died of AIDS. And when he did, I had a dream. Indeed, it turned out to have occurred the night that Michael died. I was not with Michael when he died. I was writing a book at the ocean with Tristan with me. But I wrote in my autobiography on page 158, our confessions, making of a post-denomination priest. That night I had an unforgettable dream about Michael. We were walking with my dog Tristan, something the three of us did a lot during Michael's last summer. In a Midwestern town, Michael was from Indiana. I was from Wisconsin. The dog ran across the street and jumped into a large puddle. Michael and I ran after him, and suddenly there rose from the puddle a huge bubble. And in the midst of the bubble was Michael as a young boy, smiling and beaming. I've never worried again about Michael since that dream. I think it's so interesting that Tristan was involved in that dream, profound dream, connecting this world to other worlds. Another time, I did a deep breathing practice with a very skilled practitioner of that kind of practice. And when we started, there were 25 people in the room. We laid down on our backs on the floor. And when I came out of my trance, which it wasn't, which is what it was, there was no one there except the overseer, the director. And he said to me, I knew you were having some kind of important trip. I didn't want to disturb you. So the others left an hour ago. And I had lost all time, all sense of time. But what had happened was it was after Tristan died, my dog. And he and I were traveling through the planets together in this amazing transcendent experience. And again, after that experience, I had no concerns about Tristan and his future. Very transcendent, very profound dream I will never forget. Now, Tristan did die, of course, and I now have a spiritual director named Mara. Mara, she's part Labrador and she's mostly Labrador, but she's also part Schnauzer, which makes her a small Labrador with whiskers. She's a very fine companion. And we sleep together, she in her bed on the floor, and right next to that bed is my bed, higher than hers, but I hear her snoring at night and all the rest. It reminds me of the gift of breath that we all share, all beings and all mammals. So there's so many invitations, I think, from the animals to join us in a deeper sense of space and play and directness and gifting and blessing. And often, as I hear her snore at night or breathe deeply next to me, I'm reminded of what Thomas Merton said, that every non-two-legged creature is a saint. So I'm living and sleeping with this four-legged saint, and it is a great blessing. I hope you too have plenty of parallel blessings from the animals in your life. Thank you, and thank you to Jill and her movement of the dog farm, Moon Dog Farm.